Glad tidings, rapscallions, it's me, Mucky Mates. Hope you are well, hope you are funky fresh. It is time of the week that we do It's Okay to Suck and Start Again, which is a little bit of a longer version of the videos that I tend to do every day, although I have only really been talking about my mission to move back to Australia. Now, what happens in It's Okay to Suck and Start Again is I sort of rant on quite a lot. I don't edit these videos. The reason I don't edit these videos is because life is uneditable. We can't go back, can we? We can't edit out all the bad things we've done, so we've got to learn to own them, thus understanding it's okay to suck and start again. So you might have done something in the past, you sucked, or maybe you tried something and you weren't particularly great at it and you might want to go back and start again. Now, I am currently back reading a book which is very, very good. It's called The Power of Habit by Charles Duhigg. Now, it's a really, really good book, and the last time I read it was just, I think, like early, was it 2020 or early 2021? I think it was 20, I don't know. It was during the global the global P word that we're not allowed to say about on social media anymore, even though once upon a time they couldn't shut up about the global P word. Ends with pandemic. So basically, and it's quite interesting to read this book again because I've read it, and then since I've done that, I have been doing a psychology degree, and so, but the power of habit just breaks down some really, 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 sort of interesting things about human nature. Now, I have, over this last week, been trying to start getting, well, more predominantly this week, I've been doing it more consciously. I think I've been doing it unconsciously for a little while. But what I'm trying to do now, more than I have been doing, is getting up and for the first 30 minutes minimum of the day, having absolutely no time on my phone whatsoever. So I used to get up in the morning, I used to get in the shower, but before that I'd faff about for about God knows how long. Sometimes I'd be like 10 minutes just trying to find some music to put on. I don't really want to fancy. I don't fancy that. I don't know if I want to put that one. No, I'm going to put this on. So, like I say, it's kind of sort of, that's 10 minutes out of my day gone, isn't it? Or I might be doom scrolling while I just need to, while I'm sort of, I might open YouTube or TikTok or Instagram up and suddenly find myself in a doom scroll, which again is taking up valuable lifetime, isn't it? So, one thing that I've been doing is literally trying to use that first half an hour. So I'll normally go in and, I am a bit of a creature of habit. We're all creatures of habit, but it's understanding how to get ourselves in better habits. Now, having that 30 minutes in the morning with just pretty much silence. I mean, you're never going to get true silence, are you? I live on a main road. Definitely not going to get, and I live in a house share, so I'm definitely not going to get complete silence. But what I mean is like no distractions from using my phone or going on my laptop to sort of like set up a, some to watch some news on crypto that's just basically all nonsense anyway. Oh, it's going to pump today, is it? All right, okay, we've been saying that for months, but so basically, and then sort of what I've been doing on after that is sitting down and reading a book for like 15 to 20 minutes. Now, two things have happened, sort of that have, not two things have happened, like a few things have happened, but basically, reading this book again has reintroduced me to the idea of the habit loop and the cue, the routine, cue and reward. Now, as I've said in the past, I have had a alcohol issue and other things with things that rhyme with rugs, and I've been very, very fortunate actually to sort of overcome these really difficult times, and as a result I wanted to sort of be a little bit more involved in youth development and youth work, basically, because I feel like the prevention is better than the cure, and unfortunately a lot of addictions and a lot of bad things happen or start when we are at a younger age, you know, or even more so that we don't have the people around us to encourage us to do the things that we should really want to do in life. And you know, sometimes we're unaware that we kind of may hang around with people who don't believe in us, or we might have family, you know, we might have family members that talk negatively to us, and you know, each of these is kind of a form of, you know, starts building up. We learn to doubt ourselves a little bit and things like that, you know. I mean, fortunately for me, I don't really listen to people who tell me I can't do things. If anything, it's if you don't want me to do anything, the best thing is to do is just keep your mouth shut and don't bait me, because I'll just wear myself out. But if you're somebody who tells me that I can't do something, then you get my back up, and then just to prove a point, because I'm petty, I'll go and do it. But you know, that's just how I am. That's, you know, not everybody's the same and whatnot. So but now that I'm reading the Power of Habit, I'm starting to see a few things in my own life that's changing. Like, one of the things that I've sort of started doing more recently is I wanted to lose some weight. I put on quite a lot of weight because I used to smoke the old giggle bush, the old devil's lettuce, and obviously with that I smoked tobacco. And anybody who's excuse me, and anybody who's ever stopped smoking will tell you, you get a bit snacky. You get a bit, because you want to do something with your hands. Now, obviously, I had a whole ritual that I would do when I was smoking the old giggle bush. You know, the old sort of, and I thought about this the other day, and I was like, some of the extremes that I went to go and, you know, source, you know, a little bag of green stuff is insane. Like, I would literally, there's been times when I've gone on a Sunday or whatever, got on a train because I've run out of stuff, and I've got on a train from, you know, Salford all the way to Stockport to see the guy who I used to get my stuff off. And like, that's insane, isn't it? Like, a 4-hour round trip just to go and buy a bit of stuff. So, you know, you do these things and they become ingrained, and that, like, you don't realise that you're actually sort of quite down the well with it. But going back to sort of like, obviously it's coming up 2 years since I gave it up. It's 2 years in August, September, I can't remember exactly. Like, 'cause I stopped smoking it, but then I started like eating it. I started like having edibles for a little while. But I would say between giving up alcohol and giving up that, I would say that was the much harder. It was much harder to give up, because like, at least with alcohol, when I gave that up, I had something to fall back on. Now, the other side of the coin is, like, I went through something what's called cannabinoid hypermesis syndrome, which sounds, you know, a bit, woo, what's that? It's horrific. That's what it is. It's horrific. And it's the one thing, even though I do on occasion miss having the old, you know, like I say, the whole ritual of, like, you know, saucing it and, you know, sitting there and rolling a few, you know, pre-made, you know, pre-rolled, and going out for long walks and stuff like that. And in a weird combination of not going, like, because obviously I'd sort of go out for like long walks. I can't sit in my house because I live in a house share. I live right next to my landlord, so I can't really sit in my house, puff in the herb. So what I would do is I would like roll so many pre-made, and then I'd take some extra, you know, like grind, you know, my grinder and stuff like that, and then I would go for a walk for about, sometimes it'd be 8 hours. Sometimes, like on my days off, I'd go for an 8-hour walk. And I mean, like, don't get me wrong, I mean, it's weird really, because I was probably fitter than I am now, but I was like chuffing away all the way. So, you know, obviously when I gave up that, I weren't going out on the long walks anymore, but I also had a massive craving for food, and wanting to snacks, and then sort of was, even though I was hitting the gym pretty hard, I was just like, so again, I've piled on the weight, and you know, I'm a lot heavier than I've been in a long time, probably since like my sort of like when I was out of control, and it's made me quite down and depressed in a way, like, because I'm not quite, I look at myself in the mirror and I'm not quite the person that I wanted to see in the mirror. And you know, that's all right. I'm not saying if you are carrying an extra little bit of weight and you're happy as you are, then I'm not telling other people, you know, you should be this way and whatnot. However, it's just your own personal comfort, isn't it? It's how you feel. And sometimes getting to that point, you kind of look at people and you sometimes think, God, how do you let yourself get to that point? But not thinking that food is actually, you know, can be an addiction. You know, I know people like looking at my drinking situation is like, when I felt isolated or attacked, I would run to my, you know, crutch, which was obviously drink. And if I was stressed, I'd drink. And, you know, and basically now you've sort of got to work out, and hindsight is never wrong. You look back and you go, God, that's how. And even now, every now and then I get sort of stressed, something like something bad will happen or whatever, and I can feel like, oh, I don't know why, you know, in my head I've got this little voice going, you might as well just go and get drunk, you might as well just go and get some beers. What is life? What's life all about? You know, who's going to care if you drink? You don't see anybody anyway, nobody would ever know, but I'd know. Do you know what I mean? And I, like, one thing that I feel like, if I started drinking again, what would happen is I would feel really, really upset with myself. Like, I don't feel like I would. I think the idea of having a beer, in comparison to the joy that would bring me, in comparison to the disappointment of going over 5 years and being sober for 5 years, and then destroying that absolute amazing achievement, you know, and that's it. And I think that's the one thing that keeps me going. And I don't believe I'll ever go to that place I did when I was in my 20s, because I'm a different person now. Like, I think I could quite easily social drink, but I am a creature of habit, like I say. And, you know, I hated wasting my days in bed when I had a hangover, because I would be so violently ill from a night out that I'd sometimes I'd be in bed for like 2 days at a time. Do you know what I mean? And that's why, like, it just killed productivity, like the person I've become and the things that I've achieved since giving up alcohol. It's day and night. You know what I mean? I'm a complete different person to sort of that. I don't think I'm a different person. I just don't feel like I'm hindered. And like, so basically, from giving up alcohol, I decided that I needed to, because I was earning money, and I had suddenly I had all this money that, like, once upon a time would have just gone down the drain. So I started looking at investing, and I did invest in, you know, I invest in crypto, and, you know, whatever people may think about that, you know, everybody's entitled to their own opinion. But I have followed, maybe not so much now, because I'm just a little bit fed up of like all the sort of like nonsense, all the manipulation and stuff like that. And that doesn't happen just in, you know, in crypto. It happens in all markets and stuff like that. You know, like we can see that there's been a lot of market manipulation with something like, you know, oil, and a certain world leader who seems to be very, very good at telling all his mates when you know, the market is going to suddenly crash, and some of the profit that his family have made. But, you know, that's for another video maybe. I'm not going to get all political. I'm trying to keep away from politics. But like I say, but from giving up that habit, I created a new habit of investing. And then, because crypto is a cruel mistress, and a lot of my money went phew, goodbye. I kind of were like, sugar plums and rubbish, where's all my money gone? But rather than doing what most people do, because I have kind of got like a good brain for logical thinking and stuff like that, and you know, I thought, well, actually, it's gone up to this price before and then it's come back down again. What I'll do is wait till the price goes back up, and then I'll take my money out, and then that's it. I won't play with it anymore. But what really happened was I got really into finance, and I started reading finance books, and I started reading about and understanding about fractional banking. And once all those sort of things started happening, I started realizing that actually, like, and I used to have this real axe to grind with the rich. I don't really have an axe to grind with the rich anymore, because to be honest, if we all thought about how we spend our money a little bit more, and we all spent it a little bit wisely, then we wouldn't need to hate the rich, because we'd be able to achieve the things that we want to do. Like, and I tried starting a basic financial literacy page. I sort of like tried to keep it very sort of easy to understand, very simplistic. But what you find is people don't want to learn about that. They want to moan about things. And sadly, that's the situation that we get ourselves into. You know, I call it the blame game. It's very easy to blame somebody else and take a modicum of responsibility for what we've actually done to sort of find ourselves in that position. And like I say, once upon a time, I was very good at the blame game. I was very good, because it was always somebody else's fault. And tomorrow never came, because I was always going to stop drinking. I was always going to go to the gym. I was always going to start doing this. And, you know, but I've noticed, you know, since like just recently, like going back to the weight loss thing, is I've started doing cardio again. And like, because I'm determined, I want to get back down to a 34 waist. I don't know what I am, but I know that this t-shirt here didn't fit. This t-shirt was tight on me, you know, 3 weeks ago, and didn't fit. So I know something's happening, and I can feel it myself. So if I can feel it myself, then, you know, it's only a matter of time before people start noticing. But because I'm over 6 foot, sometimes you can't tell whether I've put on 2 stone or I've lost 2 stone, because you just kind of look the same, like, oh, you're elongated, aren't you? So, but because I've set myself a little target to do, like, I have this little thing on it, you know, on my days off, like today, where I want to do 15 kilometers as fast as I possibly can. Now, the problem is, if I eat crap at the weekend, it affects my performance. Like, and I'm not competing anybody, you know, like, again, it's competing with myself, and I'm a very competitive person, even against myself. I want to be better than that person I was yesterday. So again, you know, so I've basically, and as a result, I've started cutting out a lot of carbs. Like, I've just had my evening meal, which I have it quite early, because it's just easier than fighting in the kitchen looking for space. But, you know, I've had a nice bit of steak, and I've just had a couple of flatbreads and a massive portion of like homemade coleslaw. Oh, and 2 boiled eggs. And I've actually baked I'm trying to, because my biggest weakness is sugar. Ever since I gave up alcohol, sugar's been a massive. So what I've made, I follow a guy, I don't know his name, Lewis something, but he's a PT, and he's always sharing really easy to make meal, you know, healthy. And I've just seen him make a healthy sort of like blueberry muffin cake type thing out of porridge oats and protein. And instead of eating naughty chocolate tonight, I'm going to have that, because I'm going to treat myself. But because it's predominantly healthy, because there's no flour in there, and it's all like very low fat stuff, it's even got a bit of like whey protein in there. It's actually quite healthy. I mean, it's but like I say, because now I've changed my routine of doing cardio and stuff like that, and I want to be better, and I feel like I'm really disappointed if I eat rubbish now, and I'm like, right, I need to set myself a target where I'm not completely punishing myself every day, but like I have like little, you know, some people have cheat days, don't they? And I'm like, well, maybe I have, like, because what I'm trying to do in the gym when I've got my days off is I'm trying to burn off 1,000 calories just on cardio, but I'm also doing weights. So I'm probably burning off roughly about 11 to 1,200 calories on some days in the gym. Not today, but then I'm trying to burn 500 calories off when I walk. And now that seems extreme, but like I say, I've got a lot that I need to shift. But what I'm trying to say to you is everything takes a decision. And I decided that I wasn't happy and I needed to think about what I could do that would make me, and it is making me, because I'm eating healthier food, I'm drinking more water, I've cut down my coffee intake, I've cut down my caffeine intake, and I drink a lot more coffee when I'm in work, but I have 1 coffee a day when I'm not in work. Whereas when I'm working and cutting hair, I'll probably have 3, but I probably won't eat. Do you know what I mean? So overall, I'm starting to feel healthier. I've even noticed that I feel a little bit lighter. I don't know, I just feel more and more motivated. And sometimes it just takes you getting into these routines and just starting to look at exactly what you're doing and just going, okay, I'm just going to change this one little thing. I'm just going to change. I'm not going to eat that 3 nights a week, or I'm going to sit, like I say, I'm sitting down and reading instead of doom scrolling in the morning, you know. And I find, you know, the one thing that I find with a lot of people when you talk about sort of like, you know, people love to moan, don't they? And it's like, look, if you sit down, there's a million podcasts out there that can help you beat whatever you want to do. Educate yourself in some element, like, and the reason I ended up doing a psychology degree is because I ended up reading loads and loads of psychology based self-help books. I remember when I used to smoke and I read The Easy Way to Stop Smoking, and that was life-changing because, like, I stopped smoking like that. I started again, but I used it again and I stopped again. And some people just think, well, I don't like reading, and my caveat to that is, well, carry on doing what you're doing then and just be miserable, because you don't seem to really like your life that much. Do you know what I mean? Anyway, so I've waffled on for quite long enough. I'm trying to keep these under 20 minutes, but I've run over again. So like I say, basically, if you just look at what you're doing in your life and what's making you not so happy, then maybe, just maybe, you could look at like how you can be happier and then work back from there. And it just, you know, it could be as simple as starting making your bed. Like I say, starting the day without using your phone for half an hour. You know, maybe if you can, or like changing what you watch. If there's something that you're really interested in doing, if there's a hobby that you feel like you want to undertake, then could you not sort of like watch something on that? Everything starts with one little change, and you break, you know, it takes 4 days to break a habit and 4 days to start a new one. And sometimes it's just taking that a little bit of first, you know, a leap of faith, and you've just got to believe in yourself. You know, like I say, I've read God knows how many self-help books I've read now. It's ridiculous. But I can't, you know, I can only add, like, the reason I tell anecdotes about my own life is because I want people to understand that, like, it doesn't matter how qualified I get in psychology and stuff like that. There's so many people who are, you know, who are in psychology that have absolutely no life experience. They've never had an addiction. They've never, you know, they've never seen hardship. They've never known what it's like to stretch 20 quid for a 2-week period. And I've got all that. So as much as I'm sort of qualified in ways, I'm more qualified in life experience. And sometimes I like to guide people through that. Anywho, toodle pip, take care, goodbye.